Welcome back once again to the Dadnarok Aftershow. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to talk about Welcome to Wrexham, the final episodes of that, also the final episode of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. We've also continued to talk about House of the Dragon, as well as Star Wars Andor. But here we are once again. We are Dadnarok. If this is your first time seeing us, welcome. We do this each and every Sunday morning in the 10 o'clock hour, a little later this morning because we had to watch Extra Wrexham, right? So we start a little later.
Yeah, thanks, FX.
Yeah. But usually around, the 10 a.m. hour Sunday morning. So before you're watching your NFL games later in the day or whatever, you're getting your Sunday going. Tune us in, and we're live. So comment. Be sure to drop comments. React with us here in real time. We'll bring your comments up on the screen and talk with you. This could be a conversation. So just be sure to leave comments and we'll bring you on.
We encourage the conversations.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and dig into our first topic of discussion.
Kicking it off strong
Andor.
here. Andor.
This episode was awesome. Not because the action and everything, but I feel like we were talking in the past about how these characters you are really starting to actually get connected to. The young kid with his little wayfinder thing to help them get up and down, through the eye, which they built up and they delivered. That was phenomenal. Let's start with that. What'd you think of that?
Oh, it was unlike anything that we've seen in the Star Wars so far. And I love the inclusion of it because it's like, if even if you're thinking of like the United States and like each state has like their own state fair or like each town has their own like historical thing that the people of that town or that city or that state are aware of and is special to them. Think of that on like the galactic level. Like this is something that draws these people in every 3 years, this beautiful celestial event that even the Imperials were wowed by. The Imperials themselves, who are typically, brash and don't care about stuff like this, they were just like, oh, I can't wait to see this thing.
I think the level of Imperials we're seeing are the us level Imperials.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the higher ups. Now, some of the higher ups were like, have you seen it before? Yeah, I've seen it like 3 years ago. But they're, like you said, but they're even looking forward to seeing it again because it's something that is just out of this world.
Yeah, and it has been talked up so far in the series, so I think it paid off. I think visually it was pretty stunning. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now I was concerned because the way that they were building up to it, which was a phenomenal way they built it, because when they actually start showing Andor and the team start to infiltrate this vault, essentially, the leader and that other girl were underwater, and they looked up, which was first thing I thought was, there's always a bigger fish.
Phantom Menace, yeah, swimming to Gunga, whatever that city was called.
Yeah, the Gungans, yeah. But that one meteor was flying over, so you've seen the shot. You're looking from below them, and you've seen it. So you still seen the buildup, like the timing of everything was going on. So we knew that there was going to be that short window that they get in, they get everything, they got to get out before it stops because they can't get away from these TIE fighters. So we feel the stress of them needing to get through and having this all go down right.
Yeah, so far they're keeping to this 3 episode arcs. We were told, I think, what's a total of 12 episodes.
Yeah.
They're kind of broken up where every 3 episodes is kind of its own unique story. We felt that with the premiere, with when Andor was still kind of on his own planet. It took 3 episodes for him to even get off planet. We were introduced to a bunch of characters and stuff. Same thing with these last 3 episodes. It was all about getting to this heist with this ragtag group of rebels. And the payoff, episode 6 here, was done really well. I mean, not only the visual of the eye itself, but the heist. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Like I couldn't look away.
Yeah, because we knew not everyone was getting out.
Yeah.
We knew that it was going to go wrong. And it didn't go terribly wrong, honestly. It went to
Well,
plan
most of that
until
is dead, but
well, yeah, I mean, things started going sideways when the communications guy was like, "Something's up."
yeah,
And
right.
then when he kind of storms down there with his like what 4 guys or so, whatever it is, and
Mhm.
kind of does his thing and kind of lights it on fire. Then
Yeah,
then the commander, the commandant, he has a heart attack and dies, which doesn't help the
right.
situation.
Yeah.
Which pretty much lit the fire, lit the fuse of the fight to actually take place.
Yeah, it is crazy, and it's like, I'm glad there is something to say about this show, and there's something to say about, shows in general when you take the time to give us meaty dialogue scenes between characters. Because otherwise, this group, I wouldn't have cared when they died, but, like, when the kid that wrote the manifesto, when he was crushed inside the ship taking
I
off,
felt it immediately.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, no." Like, each death is just like, oh, it hit you. It had a harder hit than it typically does in shows like this.
Oh, you had the leader, the big black guy,
Yeah.
and he was going. He took the
Former
shot.
stormtrooper, by the
Yeah,
way, we
he
learned.
went down.
Yeah.
And I don't remember all their names. The woman that was there, but basically the leader, and she had that. You had that immediate, like she was her second in command went down,
Yeah.
and she gasped, like she almost didn't even give them the go. They were all the way in, and she was starting to get cold feet. They were up on that communications tower, and they were waiting for the go from her because they were down, with all the Aldani and everybody.
Yeah.
And she hesitated, and eventually she's like, "Okay, let's do it." And you were waiting. It was like, is she gonna back? Is this where it's gonna fall apart?
Yeah, it was Val and Cinta. Those were the 2 women that had, like, the
Yes.
separate mission that went underwater, and, Val lives. We see Val, and I think Cinta survived, didn't she?
Yes, because she walked out of the vault at the end. She was still in her
Yeah.
Imperial garb while the eye was happening.
That's right, yeah, so she's still on planet, but she was a survivor this episode. But, yeah, that little moment, because it's saying something, because we're so used to watching these rebels and, like, even just generally just watching people on a mission, for them not to have those human moments of hesitation like that, but, they chose to show that in this series, in this episode, and I appreciated that, yeah, it was
Yeah,
cool.
that was really. I liked also when we seen it. What I want to know is when was the air base, alerted to an issue?
Mhm.
Because all of a sudden you see them getting the TIE fighter pilots getting in, the
We've
TIEs
never
dropping
seen that
down.
before, yeah, we've
We've
seen
seen it
people.
animated, but never live action.
Yeah, and I can't remember seeing it at all, but, like, and we've seen plenty in live action of, like, the rebel pilots hopping in their X-Wings. I mean, we saw it in A New Hope, for Pete's sake, but, like, to actually see the TIE fighters, or the TIE pilots go in the TIE fighters, that was cool.
When it dro I just love the visuals of them
Yeah.
flying low over these hills and zooming in, and it was great. And
Yeah,
then
this
it just harkens back to Rebels, which I know is animated,
yeah.
but it harkens back to the storyline between basically it was Thrawn, and I think it was Vader. Vader wanted the Death Star. Thrawn wanted these new TIE fighters that have shields on them.
Mm,
And if they had these shields like an X-Wing,
right.
they wouldn't be in so much peril.
Yeah,
But they decide that, TIE fighter pilots are so much more skilled than X-Wing fighter pilots that they don't need the shields so they can be lighter and more maneuverable. And
right.
you find them in situations like this.
Yeah,
And man, flying through it and knowing when to go pull up and when to drop back down and seeing the TIE fighters getting hit and dropping out, everything worked to what they expected to do to a T. Now they took the casualties that they didn't want and they were hoping not to take,
right.
but the plan actually worked as planned.
Yeah, I mean, it was mission accomplished. There were some sacrifices there, and we even see Lucian at the very end. I think it's the final scene we get where he's just smiling in relief and joy, that it actually worked.
Oh, I loved because the guy sat down in his shop and said, "Did you
Yeah,
hear about Aldani?"
right.
And he's like, he
He
just
was freaking out a little
smiles
bit. Yeah.
and he
At
walks
first,
it.
he's
And
like,
once
"What?"
again, he walks to the back of the room,
Yeah.
just like he did with Mom Mothma.
Yeah.
And then he has that like break of character that he's in for his
Right.
shop of relief. Now he doesn't know the casualty level of what took place.
No,
He
not
knows
yet.
that they were successful.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be curious to see how he responds going forward. He doesn't even know Andor pieced out on him.
Exactly, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. That whole scene after the mission was accomplished and, they're trying to save the life of the Manifesto kid, which was a cool scene in itself, just choosing which path do we go? Do we just keep going on the mission, or do we make this
Mhm.
detour to this moon to try to help this kid? Andor makes the good guy choice, right?
Yeah.
And they go down, and this is where we find out that. So this is what I want to ask you about. On the surface, we think that Skeen is a turncoat, and he was willing to take this thing. That entire scene, I was wondering, like, is he just testing Andor? Because I know there's been this tension between the two. Is he saying these things to see if Andor is going to take the bait because he's trying to like? But I never get my question answered because
No,
Andor takes him
I
out
I
before the end.
don't think that whatsoever. I think he was willing to go ahead and jump ship, take his
Okay,
money and disappear.
okay,
And I got that feeling from him from basically the beginning, the very beginnings of their actual interactions, him and Andor.
right,
Just the way he seemed like he was there, but he wouldn't admit that he was a hired gun. He was there because he had his own ambitions to go ahead and do this and try to get paid and disappear.
See, yeah, I was confused just because I guess the story of his brother and how much I believed how much hatred he had for the Empire. So at the end of the day, to take that money and run just for selfish reasons, I don't know. It's like, well, which was the lie? Then, like, is this the lie or was the lie before? And I
I
guess
think there is that hatred, but I think the time, as long as they were on Aldani
yeah,
and basically living on nothing and eating berries and just
right,
barely surviving, would beat him down enough to be like, you know what? I've got 40 million credits.
right.
I can disappear and live the life of luxury.
Yeah, that's I get it, but at the same, as far as story wise, I would just say in the now it doesn't matter anymore, right? Because the guy's dead. We'll never get these questions answered. But in the moment, I was having all those thoughts swim through my brain. Is this real? Like, what's going on now? Like, I guess that's how well done that turn was, is because I was as surprised as Andor was,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah,
sitting
the
there.
writing of that was really good. And I love
Yeah,
how Andor handled it. He's
yeah,
just sitting there like, hold on, what? And you see, once again, we get another part of Andor is not a hero.
right,
He is not truly a good guy. He is the underbelly. He's the dirty side
yeah,
of everything that's happening with the rebellion. You
yeah,
see episode 1, he shoots that security guard right in the face when he was begging for his life.
right.
And now you see it essentially again here where he didn't even hesitate. He pulled his weapon and boom, and basically he's gone.
It is, and Andor's story is not one of good actions or evil actions, it's about survival. Like, what action do I need to take in this moment to get me to see another day? And
Yeah.
that's the kind of life that he's been living, and he'll continue to live even into Rogue One.
Now the thing
Um,
is, now my question is, he's the only one that knows how to fly that actual like freighter thing, the big tank thing with all the money.
right.
How if he leaves, he takes his 120,000 credits and he goes ahead and he left the Kyber crystal. How is he getting off planet?
That's another thing too. It's like, where do we go from here? Because they don't expound on, and I'm sure we'll pick that up. He takes the manifesto from Val. That was a gift from the kid before he died. And yeah, so it's like, what now? Yeah, he's the only one who could fly it. Val's kind of stuck here too, because she doesn't know how to fly it. I guess, she calls in Lucian for assistance.
I
Something happened. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, from it's a lot of question marks as far as what happens to each of these individual characters moving on.
will we see that though?
Yeah, I don't
Because I think there's
know.
supposed to be a time jump
I buy
from
that too. Yeah.
from where we are now to the next set of 3 episodes. I
Right.
think there's going to be a House of Dragon type time jump.
Yeah.
Like, okay, they're not gonna tell us how they got the credits off. They're not gonna tell us how Andor got off or where he went. We're gonna pick up Andor in some other location,
Right.
and he's gonna be going through things, and who knows who's gonna reach out next time.
Yeah.
It may not be Lucian again. It could be a whole nother member of, the rebellion. It could be, what's his name? From oh man,
Oh, from that
Saul
security force?
Guerrera. It could be Saul
Oh, Saul Guerrera, yeah.
because in reality, Andor is more like Saul than he is Lucian.
Yeah, I buy that. Yeah.
So I can see him siding with Saul And that whole that faction
Yeah.
for a while for this next 3 episodes, because essentially those 2 factions are fighting for the exact same thing, but going about it in different ways.
We gotta see Saw Gerrera in this show.
Oh, we
Thank
will. I
Yeah.
guarantee we'll see Saw Gerrera.
Right.
Who I want to see also is Jen Erso, because
Oh,
she is his
right.
number 2. And if we
Right.
see Saw, we have to see Jen, a young Jen.
Isn't it fun? Like Forrest Whitaker, just a little aside here, but like I've always admired him as like an actor. He's been like a great character actor, like from the '90s and on. Like I knew the guy before he was in Star Wars, and now it's just he's this character, this Saul Guerrero character that like had this bit part in Rogue One. But I'm surprised at how much Saul Guerrero as a character has been in so many other things since then.
Yeah.
It's kind of been crazy. They've really kind of glommed onto that character, and he's kind of like the face of this dirty part of the rebellion. The real heavy duty stuff. Um, so that's been cool to watch that, and Forrest Whitaker be playing that character too.
So, guys, what did you think of this? I mean, we think it's fantastic. For me, the first block, the first 3 weren't as strong. The second 3 for me were stronger than the others. But as a whole, I mean, this show is nailing it. It's not your typical Star Wars, but you're seeing enough Star Wars in it to recognize what it is. So if you like it, drop a comment below, drop a comment live. Make sure you go ahead and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss our show weekly. We have many more weeks of Andor here. They're not going to burn off a bunch of episodes in one day, 1 week for us.
Right.
You understand that later. But until then, let's just go ahead, and I believe we have some soccer talk to talk about.
Yep.
All the optimism, and next year we go again.
And it's like, do you know what? It's like you said before. This isn't like a down, like any other season down. This is a down that we're going to be right back up there next year.
This is a short-term down because we're coming back with a vengeance.
We're coming back, and we're coming to win the
delay.
This
season,
this is a great word. This is a delay.
It's a delay. We're coming to win the league, and we're coming to win the league. We're coming to kick the bloody door down of the football league because we're coming for you.
Yeah.
The Red Army are coming for you.
You look what it'll be like when we do win the league. Then you'll really see it take off.
That Red Army is spreading worldwide.
Sure is. Yeah.
Oh man, dude, let's just do this real fast. Let's get the negative out of the way.
All right.
FX needs to suck a big egg because they are hurting the show. They're hurting the popularity of the show. In turn, I think they're hurting the team. They're hurting the city. The way that they release this, they've burnt off 2 weeks of episodes essentially in the past 2 weeks. This could be, another 2 weeks long. It could even be more because there was an episode that, prior in the season was an hour.
Right.
Which is not necessary. I mean, there was no release pattern to this show whatsoever. I did not expect going into this week to be the finale.
Right. Yeah. You and I were surprised quite a few times going through this season because we have to stay abreast of like how many episodes are airing. Like no other show, we have like, it's like clockwork. Once a week, you get an hour-long episode, and that's what you dedicate your time for. But Welcome to Wrexham was just all over the place, where we could get anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours of content to cover. 1 episode, 3 episodes. Like it became difficult for us. Now that's just us. At the end of the day, I don't know what the decision making was to reveal those episodes on the schedule that they ended up doing.
But I mean, ESPN was even starting to play them.
Yeah.
They were showing a 2-hour block of Welcome to Wrexham on ESPN in the middle of the day, like primetime television.
Right.
For like people to see. So, I mean, it was even on a Saturday or a Sunday, maybe on a Sunday where they don't have, American football on. But it was like, okay, if it's catching on there, and now that they showed the live game yesterday on ESPN, which caught me off guard. Like all you guys over there, all you Wrexham fans were telling us over and over again, 1 o'clock, even on, I think the Wrexham London supporters on Twitter told us 1 o'clock, 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Now, 1 o'clock for you guys. I was thinking 1 o'clock for us, which turned into be 8 a.m., which is still doable.
On a Saturday, that's rough.
But it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I was setting up my DVR because I was going to have to record it because I had some things I needed to do. But I tune in. I'm like, oh, it's already on.
You actually did catch some of the game, luckily.
Yes, I caught the second half. I believe it was in the 65th or 70th minute. I was able to watch it. So I was watching. I seen when they went ahead and they subbed in both Ollie Palmer and Paul Mullen, which blew my mind. I was like, why are they not in the starting lineup for one?
Right.
So and they pulled out, I think Davies, pulled him off the field. Where I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? What did I miss?
Yeah.
And they're going and they're playing. And I seen the goal, and it was like I was telling you before we have a little conversation before we go live here. Watching the game, it was kind of surreal. It was like stepping into a different world
Mhm.
because you see the backdrop of the city, you see the field and the stands. Everything looks so much otherworldly compared to
Right.
what we're used to when it comes to professional sports.
Yeah.
And no matter what the level of the sports are, there is a certain like grandeur that is given to all of our sporting events over here. So
Yeah.
seeing that, it felt so cool to watch. And like I told you, I must be the kiss of death. Because when they went up and they went into stoppage time, I'm like, I didn't want to sit up. I didn't want to walk away because I know what my team does in stoppage time.
Yeah.
And sure as crap, dude. They gave up the goal in stoppage time. And I tweeted immediately. I went, damn. And just hashtag Wrexham. And I got responses back, so they know exactly what I was talking about. But the heartbreak, it's
Yeah.
like Nicole Kidman, the heartbreak feels good in a place like this. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's really I'm sorry I missed it because I've been wanting to watch an actual game. I want to be able to follow this team in real time. Like we've had 18 episodes to not only get used to Rob and Ryan and their involvement with this team, but like their management staff, the whole behind the scenes crew, the players themselves, the players' family, the residents, and the community of Wrexham. And to know all that backstory, I kind of, as I was watching the episodes today, I kind of equated it to it's like the difference between just kinda turning on a UFC fight or actually following the story of a UFC fighter, knowing their history, watching all those little mini documentaries that they show before the fight night, you know what I mean? Leading up to an event. Like, when you have more information around the people that are involved with these sporting events, the more you're just thrown in you're just so more in it, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there's that defender that we see in this episode. I can't think of his name for the life of me. He's married. He's got a little daughter. They're taking her to the zoo.
Yeah.
And you see him actually fit again in the back, jumping up. 'Cause one of the things in the show is like, you know what? He wouldn't give up a header in that area. And you see him jumping up and knocking him out. I'm like,
Right.
I'm seeing connections. I mean, I'm the names like as soon as they said his name, I recognized what his name was, but it's just not coming to mind here.
Yeah.
But I think it was Mullins that got the goal this past this weekend. But they were also saying like I believe it was like how they were playing so poorly. They're so I think they're second in the table right now.
Mhm.
And the team that they're playing is a lot lower, a lot worse than they are. And there was zero reason why they should not have won this game. And you've seen the stress and you've seen the level of pissed in
Yeah.
Phil Parkinson's face. It was funny because they would cut to him every now and then. And you would just see how angry he
Right.
was on how they were playing. And it was just cool seeing that, like you said, real time.
We are saying goodbye to Wrexham this week. It's 3 episodes here. The first one's all about Wembley and playing at Wembley and kind of the majesty and the importance of it. We were up in the box a lot with Rob and Ryan and their celebrity friends, their Hollywood friends.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Kit Harington and Will Ferrell and even David Beckham.
Oh, real
Um,
quick. The Blythe replay will be on ESPN Tuesday. Will that be the replay of the actual match or the replay because they tied? Let me see. The replay should be a better. Okay, so I'm taking it as in the replay, as in the next, because they caught me off guard when I said replay. I guess the replay means they're going to play the game again because there wasn't an actual winner of the game. And instead of going to extra time and penalties, they're going to play a game again. Because I was expecting penalties and all that. But apparently I was not correct. So if it's going to be on then, and I actually worked from home that day, so it may be a less productive day for me that day.
yeah, hopefully your boss isn't watching.
Oh yeah, right.
Wembley, yeah. So the first episode was all about Wembley. Second episode all about this bromance and this therapy session. Really,
I
mean,
hated
they were
that, dude. The minute she started talking, I was like, "You got to shut up." I'm just
okay.
not. I wasn't feeling it at all. I feel like
I
they
know.
forced that into it. You can tell the story of all those not characters, there's people without needing to put her woman-splaining on us. She was explaining us. We know us.
Do we though?
No, we don't. But we don't need someone else telling us.
Right. Okay. Well, moving on then. Less we talk about that, the better, probably. Law, and then the loss to Grimsby City in the third episode there.
What do you think of Wembley? I thought, dude, that's like I actually seen that place packed out.
Yeah.
That's a bucket list stadium for me to go see. Like I went,
Mhm.
if I ever get over that area, that's a stadium. Like there isn't one here in the States that like I must go to.
Yeah.
Wembley is one of those like I would love beyond anything if we ever made a trip over there to go and actually see a game. No matter what the game is, just walking in and feeling the ambiance and seeing everything is kind of what I liked.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Rob even walked the field, and he said so himself. Those are the same feelings that he got, and yeah, the one that stuck for me though was episode 3, the finale, where they lost to Grimsby, and it was kind of a check-in to all of the people. I mean, everybody. They checked in with pretty much everybody. They got a
Yeah,
little kind of monologue about their feelings on the season as a whole. And you played the clip already, but like Sean and the guy from the turf there,
Wayne.
the pub,
Yeah.
yeah, Wayne, and they had their own podcast going. Just shout out to them, by the
I
way.
think it's Welcome to Wrexham. Was it PubCon? I couldn't get the exact name of because it was their accents are so strong, and
Yeah.
when they were actually given the name, there was no like subtitles or anything, which they've
Oh,
been
there weren't.
giving a lot of the times
Yeah.
because sometimes their accents are stronger than what we can actually understand us being over here. But yeah, if you can figure out what it is, check it out. But it was cool seeing their response because it was absolute heartbreak.
Oh yeah.
They were upset because how well they were, how they were second in the table, but they get knocked out by a team that they should once again they should not have lost to. They should have gotten at least to the championship match, which it would have been more. That's where I thought they were going. I thought they got through this fight, this match, and they lost in the next round. I knew they lost.
Yeah.
Based on you guys watching, you let us know that, and also knowing where they stand now in the table, that they didn't get promoted last season. Now, hopefully, they change it this year, and that's what that conversation was about. This was just a delay. This isn't inevitable. There's a different feeling to them not getting promoted this season compared to past seasons.
What else is to say about Welcome to Wrexham? I mean, a big surprise. You kind of last minute we tossed it on here as far as like, well, we've got some a blank space in content, so let's throw it on. It ended up being really a good thing for our show. I mean, we got some viewers from across the sea that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So we definitely appreciate you guys joining us as we talked about Welcome to Wrexham. And I assume they're going to go for a season 2 to keep following the story of this team.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything either way, but I mean, it's been such a hit,
Yeah.
and it can't cost much for them to do in reality because there's no production value outside of just putting the cameras out there and talking
Well,
to
no
the people in
special
the
effects
town.
anyway.
No
Yeah.
special effects. Rob and Ryan kind of are depends on if they're here or there, so there's not a whole lot of money that really needs to be put into the show. And like I said, I'm just upset on how they actually just put the show out there and how
Yeah.
they burnt through some episodes. So I thought we had plenty of time left. But this here, I mean, I've said it from the very beginning. This show, the A plot was always the town, the
Mhm.
people. Seeing Sean, seeing Wayne, seeing Annette, going through. Uh, I couldn't figure out the two old ladies' names that sit on that table in front of like one of the shops.
I know, I don't know if they ever revealed that.
See, there's a second season confirmed. Nice.
There we
Okay.
go.
There we
We'll
now. I wonder if
we'll
are they
cover it.
okay? Are they shooting it now, following this season?
Mm.
So it's going to be hard because now I want to follow the team, which in turn is going
Right.
to ruin the season for me.
Like, I
So
wanna follow the team in real time going forward, but that's,
yeah,
yeah, gonna be a spoiler for the actual show. And you know what's funny? You mentioned that, but it's, what I noticed in these episodes in particular, they were showing stuff like Rob hosting the Late Show or the replacing Jimmy Kimmel for a week or whatever. Like that happened recently. That was within like the last month or so. So I mean, they were able to edit stuff footage from way back when in the beginning of the last season all the way up to stuff that's happened within the last month and bring it into this show, which is like super impressive. The editing, even though we're not fans of like how they release episodes, the actual episodes and the editing and the
Oh
content they were
yeah.
able to gather and put into these shows really, like, top notch, like, really
Oh, and
great.
showing the personalities of the people and how
Yeah.
much the actual town opened up to them. It's like,
Mhm.
can you imagine how like, you know, hesitant a town would be for like
Right.
Hollywood to come in
Open
and
its
start
doors and
recording your daily
yeah.
ins and outs, that me sitting having breakfast and all of a sudden I've got a camera, there watching me eat breakfast.
Or it's
Or
just they got intimate with people. I mean, about the players' families and, like, loss of a child and, like, people being sick, like the gentleman who was the guitar player in that one band, and we got his, his cancer gone
yeah,
for the time being,
the
like,
player
just
losing the child,
yeah,
him
they
and his
got real
wife.
intimate with these folks. It was
I mean,
great.
you see, Sean is another one, and he was a big part of the show
Yeah.
between his, I think it was his marriage that was split and losing his
Mhm.
kids, and only getting him at certain points. And I love the interaction between him, his dad, and his kids just at the
Yeah.
park. And they were talking
Right.
about how Wrexham is in their blood and it's passed down from generation to generation to generation.
And those were, like, lovely family moments, and we got to watch it in, high definition on TV here
Yeah.
in the
Or how about
States.
the two that the one guy, they both work for the team, and one's not his dad, but it's like, I don't even know how to cook an egg.
Yeah, the groundskeeper and his assistant, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you see that back and forth, or how he was like, "I'm too immature to move out. I can't do that yet."
Yeah, little scenes like that. It
Yeah,
was a lot.
and
It was
that's
nice.
what I said. The people of the show were the show. The
Yeah,
soccer part of the show, and them trying to get promoted was the B plot of the show. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. I love the soccer portion of it. I love the back end of the show, and they showed a lot more of it. And the editing is something you pointed out. When their game was going on, and like that first goal,
mhm,
they were talking. I think they were talking to Mullins, and then he
yeah,
has the header because they slow it down. And as soon as they slowed it down, he threw his head up. You knew it was going in the net.
right.
But I love how like they were building to every special point of the game with interviews of players or people on what the game meant to them.
Yeah, that's cool. A lot of cool stuff this season to watch and go through. We had some, comments here. You guys are interacting with us live. We certainly appreciate that. What are folks saying? What's Paul saying?
Let's see. So Paul said we had 98 points one season and lost to in the playoffs to a team with 16 points worse. That sucks.
Yeah, that's harsh.
Oh man. And here's another one here. So fans are talking. You see, cameras away games and feeling that's yeah. I love all that and seeing that.
Yeah,
Just getting that option or that ability to see what's going on, because the trip over there, whoo, that's that'd be pricey. That's like once again, that's a bucket list thing.
yeah,
Get to go over there, see the town, see the team, see some other things within the country and in that area. But this was something that I'm glad I found, and I'm not even sure how I truly found the show.
yeah,
And I heard a few rumblings about it. I heard where it was. I heard it was like a real life Ted Lasso essentially. And
yeah,
I was like, you know what? Let's cover it. I love soccer. You're kind of just dipping your toe into that
right.
world a little bit, so you're not
Yeah.
too familiar with it. So I know it'll be something I would maybe more excited than you.
I will say before this and not and you and I loved Ted Lasso. Speaking of which, Jason Sudeikis was one of the celebrities in the club box there, right? But we love that show as far as like the character work and stuff. They didn't play a lot of the actual games, and before that, I've always considered soccer to be kind of a no offense, kind of a boring game. Where I'm like, like there's only like maybe a few scores and like, they can end in a tie and just like all I would see is back and forth without really getting into like the different moves and like how the players interacted with each other. I just didn't have enough of an interest to like learn more about the game. But watching an actual game, the actual background, the actual way a club works with real people, how it affects a community, and these last couple episodes in particular, where they actually do go into a game score by score, the drama in between, and how just like one score can make the difference of and how up and down it is. I mean, it's just like
Oh,
the
that 5 to
heartbreak.
6 game they had, that one when Dibble came
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Holy crap.
I'm way more invested into learning more about the game, watching actual games. I want to watch Wrexham football going forward. So
Oh,
this
I
show
would
did a lot for me.
love to find a I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would love to find a way to somehow live stream US versus Wales game 1 of the World Cup,
Oh yeah, that
or
would
do
be a
a
lot of fun.
watch party
Right, a
or
watch
something
party.
like that.
Yeah,
We have the game on and we're watching it, and you guys can come, join us and watch it as well, and we're reacting live because you guys are going to be highly invested in Wales, and obviously us with the states, we want to
yeah,
win as well. So that would be fun. But I'm so glad you guys joined us, along this ride that we had, and we were able to learn about your city, about the people in your town, how close you guys were to losing the actual team and the race course and everything. And you guys became a part of our family here at Dadnarok. So thank you so much for that. Check us out periodically, see what we're doing. Check in, let us know on how the team's doing. If you just drop in on the channel and you're not interested in what we're talking about, let us know how things are going. If we kind of stumble and kind of you know lose track a little bit, which it's gonna be easy for us to do because it's far away, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
But
Keep us involved and keep watching. If you guys are watching these other shows, we're gonna continue to cover other shows. The hit shows, streaming, and TV series here. So if you like the other content too, House of the Dragons, anything that comes up that's big popular that people are talking about in the zeitgeist, we're going to be covering it. So we definitely invite you to stay tuned, keep watching us, don't leave us, please.
well, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the Ring of Powers. But one last thing, go Wrexham.
Go Wrexham.
Shadow was spreading darkened to cover all the world. You need me.
I should have left you on the sea.
A sea that you were on because the elves cast you out. They cast you out for deigning to beg them for a few petty soldiers. What will they do when you tell them that you are my ally? When you tell them that Sauron lives because of you!
And you will die because of me!
There it is. He's not the Witch King. It's Sauron.
Yeah, Halbrand equals Sauron.
What did you think of that revelation there?
I don't know. It was done well. It felt a little like, yeah, I mean, on the nose, and everybody kind of like Halbrand was kind of like everybody's first thought on who Sauron could be. It was either him or the stranger. But the further we got along in the episodes, it seemed less and less likely that it was a stranger. So, it felt like a foregone conclusion. But that being said, I think the reveal and how we follow Galadriel's revelation of this whole thing and how she figures it out, I think it was done well. I
Yeah,
did like it.
I enjoyed it. Only thing, I mean, I wish they would have held a little bit more to, lore when he actually disguised himself as an elf and he
I think that's
started
still coming.
working with, Kellen Brimbor.
Yeah.
So I wish they kind of helped with that a little bit more. But you know what? I don't have a whole lot, you know, gripe with it. I enjoyed it. I'm sitting there and they're getting reaction out of me. My wife is sitting next to me, having no connection to anything, and she's enjoying the show.
Right.
But I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're getting like noises out of me, and I'm kind of like, I can't sit back, I can't sit forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just, I was at that in between during basically the whole show when they tried to tell us the stranger was Sauron, and that went sideways on him. So he's Gandalf. There's no doubt in my mind. He's Gandalf.
I
I
don't
mean, I
think
want
he
him to be
is.
a blue wizard. I want him to be someone separate because he's going to a land that Gandalf said he never went to.
Right.
But I
But
think it's low hanging fruit, and they're with the Hardfoots, which Gandalf has his relationship with the Hobbits, which they are a version of Hobbits. It's just going to build show us where his love of the Hobbits come from.
I'll say this: if it ends up being Gandalf, I'll be sorely disappointed because it's like it's way too like it's way too like it's just push. It's playing a video game on easy mode. Like, just come on.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have these characters of these blue wizards, which we know nothing about, and this is the perfect space to explore characters that we know exist in the books. They exist. We just don't know much about them. Flesh those characters out, And here's the thing, like, you're not whatever you write into these blue wizards, we kinda have to accept it because we know nothing about them as characters. We'll just take your version of these characters as canon, right? If you just end
Exactly.
up being this as a prequel origin story to Gandalf, then it's just like not I care a lot less about that because I know Gandalf. You know what I mean? I already know Galadriel. I already know Elrond, and it's like seeing the prequel version of those two characters is fine. I don't need to see the prequel version of Gandalf as well. You know what I mean? Like, let's just give me characters that I don't know. Anyway, yeah. You may be right because it's low hanging fruit, but I'm hoping the showrunners are better than that. But I'm not sure that they are.
Well, I'm right there with you. I want to be a blue wizard
Yeah.
because, like I said, he said he's going to that land in the east
Hmm.
where Gandalf said he never went,
Yeah.
and that's where more men are, and that's where the
Yeah.
blue wizards actually retreated to. So if he goes there and he brings um
Nori.
Nori with him,
Yeah.
which I thought, and I'm glad they didn't do, but I thought for sure Poppy was coming with her.
Yeah, it's a Frodo
Because, you
Sam,
know,
like
you need your Sam. I thought for
right.
sure that I thought she was gonna run up last minute and said, "You're not leaving without me," which
I'm
I'm glad they didn't do.
I'm hoping that season 1 of this show, almost like, The Force Awakens with Star Wars, let's just like replay the hits, man. Even not even characters, like characters too, but like story beats. Like we have to have like a Nori, Poppy, Sam Frodo variation. We have to like what are we happy and comfortable with the Lord of the Rings, and let's like repeat that in some way. Repeat it, but make it slightly different to bring in an audience. I maybe that's smart, maybe that's not. I don't know. Force Awakens was successful, but then the sequels after that were just like people had their complaints too. Like, what are we just watching A New Hope again?
Yeah.
Like, oh, another like, there's backlash against that kind of thing too. My hope is they just did that in this season 1 to make us comfortable as viewers to get comfortable with this production, right? And then season 2 really be like, well, let's see some variation. Let's see some take the story in ways that we don't expect. I'm hoping that's the case, but we'll see. And we may not see it for another 2 years because I know it takes a
Yeah,
long
they
time to
said
produce
2
this show.
man, that irritates me.
Yeah.
I was like, "Man, I don't wanna wait 2 years for my show to come back." But,
Yeah.
I mean, I did not like the Hardfoots storyline all that much at the beginning.
Mhm.
It just wasn't I don't know what it was. It just didn't click for me.
Yeah.
But the longer the season went and the more we got from him, the more and more I really liked him. I really liked Nori. I love Poppy. I like her dad and her mom. Uh, the Wayfinder guy, the older guy that winds up
Mhm.
getting knifed. I
Yeah.
felt when he got hit. I was like, no.
I
I was
know,
like,
yeah.
I don't want him to die. But I think they're setting it up for Poppy to take that role.
Oh, yeah,
She's
yeah.
going to be the main person that's going to lead them trails in the stars along the way, which
Yeah.
I like that. I like giving her character some type of arc. You give her
Mhm.
character somewhere to go that is separate from Nori. And I would love the fact if they come back together, if it's Nori, the Hartfoots, and the stranger, whoever he winds up being, if they cross paths again. Or if it comes to the point where she kind of has her Bilbo moment, where she goes on this adventure with this stranger
Mhm.
and then it is concluded and she returns back
Mm.
and kind
Mhm.
of has her own type journal. I see. I like the journal idea. I don't mind it being too much on the nose with the other ones, but I like the idea of her because I feel like they're type people would always document things. They'll always write big events down, and that would be a massive event in her life.
Yeah. I'm curious how many of these storylines they bring back at all. Like, I don't know if we necessarily check in with Poppy and the Hardfoots again next season, or because there's certain characters we're going to see again. Dern and the dwarves,
Mhm.
Elrond, Galadriel. Like for sure, we're going to see them
The
again.
Numenorians,
Numenorians, yeah,
yeah,
Isildur, we're seeing him again. But like some of the ancillary characters, like Nori and the Harfoots, I don't know how necessarily like we're gonna see them. Anyway, I mean, they may just come back as a full cast, and everybody that we see this season will continue to follow. But I could also see them maybe dropping some folks and bringing on like the people of the Southlands and Bronwyn and the elf. Like, is it necessary to continue to see that story? Like, or was that just our introduction to bring us into the Numenorians? You know what I mean? And like now that the Southlands is Mordor, is there
yeah.
more story there or what? it's interesting to see which way they'll go with some of those story aspects.
Well, they built her son's his like character up. I
Yeah,
can't think of his name
Theo.
off the top of my head. Theo. They built him up with
Mhm.
Galadriel giving him the sword and calling him a soldier. So
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed to see, like, I can see them moving because there's other, like, within lore, there's other actual Numenorian like camps up and down the coast.
Hmm.
So I can see them going to one of those camps and being a part of that. But yeah, to this point, I don't think there's much need for that storyline. I can see them almost dropping the Hardfoot storyline and just keeping Nori
As
and
kind of
the
an
and the
intro
stranger.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those two going on, because in reality, we lose the hobbits
Hmm.
for the majority of the Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. All we get is Sam and Frodo.
Hmm.
So it would kind of fall in line with what you were saying as well. It would kind of, we got introduced to this group. One of them or two of them have left to do something. And then that whole storyline is gone till when it's needed again towards the end.
Right. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see where they go from here. Hey, we actually saw some rings. Three
Yes.
of the elven rings were I had their names here. Vilya, Nenya, and Narya. I wrote it
We
down.
got three of them. Three of them found. I thought it was interesting how they did it because once they went ahead and were forging them, Galadriel knew the purpose behind them. And she
Hmm.
said instead of two, she said three need to be forged. I was like, okay, three have to be forged. There's no way you're going to get away with two. You have to give me three. If you don't give us three, there's going to be an uproar
Right.
like you won't believe.
Well, her thing is like one is too much power, two can be
Corrupts.
divisive, but three there's balance. You know, there's
Yeah.
just checks and just the way our same way our democracy, our three branches of government work here. That's the way it's supposed to work anyway. Um, but yeah, with three that just made sense. And Celebrimbor has, I'm supposing, but the three elves that we see at the end of this are the ones who inherit these rings. We know that Galadriel has
Yeah,
Nenya,
Galadriel gets the white one.
and
I'm not sure which one
Elrond
that
gets
is.
one. That's Nenya. Elrond gets one, and Celebrimbor gets one. Celebrimbor eventually his fate. Sauron. Spoiler alert: Sauron takes care of Celebrimbor later. But we that ring eventually goes to Gandalf. Gandalf holds one of the three rings. But yeah, it's funny. It's like the final episode of this season one of the Rings of Power. We finally see some Rings of Power.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't address the other rings that were forged that are given to other elves. And I mean, that's really what comes down to why, like you said, spoiler alert, Sauron takes care of Celebrimbor because they, when Sauron goes ahead and makes his ring, the one ring to rule them all, the elves are onto it. So there must be, because we haven't seen that yet. So which makes me believe that the other rings have not been forged yet either.
Oh no, we'll definitely see the creation of the other rings. We got 9 rings left for men and 7 for the dwarf lord. So I think as much as this was an origin story of these 3 rings in this season, I think the next seasons they're going to be focusing on like we're probably going to see in the show the creation of all these rings and then kind of the realization of the one ring of power and that battle of the war of the ring is going to be like a final season, kind of like a season 5 or whatever they've
Yeah, I think it's
scheduled this out
5.
to.
20
Of
years
that.
later.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh god, that's depressing. Um,
Uh,
but yeah, I think you're right. I think there'll be a focus on the 9 and the 7 going forward. Um,
let's do this here. What is your overall impression of this season? Because it was, everyone was looking forward to it, and there's been mixed reactions to it based on speed and how they kind of venture away a little bit from lore and everything. So, what's your ending impression of this first season?
my experience of watching this show has been heavily tainted by the reaction to the show, unfortunately. Like I can't escape. I was already fans on message boards and like Facebook groups and stuff, Lord of the Rings stuff, and like to know the general divisive reaction. It's like the same when I watched The Last Jedi when that hit theaters. Like I had my own feelings, and then immediately after I would just see the conversation ping pong back and forth. Oh, you bring up a good point there. Oh yeah, you're right about that. Oh, don't agree with you there. And just like it almost taints the experience. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what thoughts are my own anymore versus what are it's the general thoughts and fandom. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I liked the show, period. Like I thought the acting was great. I thought the cast was incredible. They did a great job. The visual effects, amazing. I at this point, you don't even have to check the visual effects because it's like, duh, they spent $1 billion on the show. Of
Yeah,
course, they're going to be
yeah,
great. But like, I'm glad that you see the money, because a lot of times they spend a bunch of money on stuff, and sometimes you wonder like, where the hell did all the money go to? This thing looks like crap.
yeah,
But that's not the case here. The only thing that I feel might be like a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10 is the actual like flow of telling the story. Like, I'm not sure these showrunners. I'm not confident in the showrunners. They know how to tell a good story. I don't know if there's a way of these episodes to unfold in a different way to really kind of capture people. And I don't know if there's any way to avoid the continuing divisiveness of the fans. Just like because Tolkien people are just so I mean, we as Star Wars fans think that we hold dear to our property.
yeah,
And we do, but we're used to this. We're now at this point, especially with Disney owning Star Wars, and it started with the prequels, honestly. Like, we had the original trilogy, and that was sacred. And then when George came back for the prequels, people like were already throwing their hands in the air, like, "Oh, this is not. This is crazy. This is so different."
and that was pre-social media.
That was pre-social media, but even back then, and by this point now, we have 100 different Star Wars things going. We got two or three or four new things a year to watch Star Wars related. So by now, we're just used to it. It's coming, fast and heavy. Tolkien fans don't know what that feels like. They have
Yeah,
their
no,
books from Tolkien. They have the Peter Jackson movies, which initially didn't go down as well, and
yeah,
I
they were
think
pretty divisive
historically,
at first too.
yeah, because Peter Jackson had to leave things out, and but now they're held sacred as sacred as the texts are. You know what I mean? Like, you don't mess with Peter Jackson's trilogy. And then The Hobbit came out, and like they were pretty divisive because
Yeah,
like
that was kind of mixed. Definitely that first one that was so CG'd. Oh,
yeah, and I think with age and time, this show is going to age well eventually. But we live in an age where that's hard. Like, it's hard. People don't give shows a chance anymore.
yeah. Well, I'm
It's
the
like,
same way with a lot of the Star Wars stuff, like the prequels and
mhm,
then the sequels. I let them bake. I don't
mhm,
return back to them until I feel like it's time to go ahead and give them another shot. And I got a
yeah,
feeling with that stuff, I'm gonna enjoy it more the second time around when I let it sit for a while and my expectations aren't as high anymore. It's like,
right.
I want to sit and I want to enjoy this for what it is. So I mean that's kind of how I've approached the Rings of Power. Uh unlike you, I'm not connected to a bunch of things on Facebook anymore. I've kind of removed myself a lot from Facebook
Yeah,
just for many, many, many reasons. But
right.
so when I'm watching this, there's only one other channel. Like, well, I'm gonna say two now. One of it's because of you, Nerd of the Rings,
Mhm.
and I love how he breaks it down and he gives you his opinion on things, but he doesn't harp on what he doesn't like. He doesn't. He may say, "I got opinions about it. I don't quite like this here," but we keeps going, and he tells reasons behind things.
Yeah,
I watched that immediately. Once I was done the show this week, I put on his YouTube channel and I watched it.
right.
Which, if you guys aren't and you love the show, check him out by all means.
Yeah, Nerd of the Rings.
I also watched Campia, which a lot of people watch Campia.
Mhm.
I've stopped watching his after show
Mm.
for the main reason I feel like some people at a certain point have an agenda.
Yeah,
Even if they don't mean to have an agenda, they wind up having one and they harp and harp and harp on negativity.
yeah.
And like I don't want the negative. I appreciate your opinion, but let's focus on what was good about it, what you liked about it. Because it's been successful enough for you to continue to do a show weekly about the show, but do you need to crap on the show as much? So I've turned that off. So I've kind of removed myself a lot from the internet's opinion of the show itself
I
because
think it's
I want to enjoy it.
Yeah, I get that totally, and I think it's increasingly difficult once you have a formed opinion about something, and this goes beyond just like your opinion of a TV show. This goes into like politics, life, religion, but it's like once you have a formed opinion of something, it's a trek. It's a such it's to change your mind. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you watch the first one or two episodes of the show and you thought there were things you hated it from the get go, there's nothing that they could do to pull you back in at that point.
No.
And you're kind of committed when you're doing shows like this, like after shows. Well, we're just going to cover the whole thing. Any other like sane person would just nope out, like, oh, I watched 2 episodes, it wasn't for me, I just didn't continue watching, I moved on to something else. But now we live in an age where it's like, well, no, it's what everybody's watching, so you have to keep watching it. And it's like you hate watch it. And then you just get these opinions, and it's just like it's an echo chamber. It just keeps repeating itself. And then it becomes like not enjoyable even to watch the review content of it because it's like you said, like why am I gonna watch something where people are just like complaining and shitting on something? You know, like that's no fun.
Yeah. So
So
my
yeah,
overall opinion of the seasons, I loved it. I
yeah,
had no issue with the pacing. I thought the pacing was good. I didn't. I knew stuff. I mean, I knew enough to enjoy like what was going on. I know
yeah,
a lot more now about things that are happening than I did prior.
right.
So, I mean, even with my additional knowledge of some things, I'm not holding it against the show because I know the show is an adaptation.
Right.
They have to adapt it to television.
Yeah.
This Samarillion, for instance, is not a story; it's a history book.
Yeah.
So there's no story within that. So they have to take bits and pieces on what they can to make things work. The other Tolkien books that he wrote are more, once again, history books. So there's no true Lord of the Rings 3 books to be adapted to a television show. You know what I mean? So they're
Mhm.
doing, you got to give them some leeway. And I'm giving it to them. I am enjoying it. Lord of the Rings is one of my, you know, top franchises.
Oh
And
yeah.
I just refuse to go through it and like you said, hate watch it. I'm gonna sit back, I'm gonna enjoy it. When it has a moment that I think is fantastic, great. Elrond and Dern,
Oh.
fantastic. That was
Mhm.
a highlight of the whole season.
Yeah.
Uh I like Nori now. I didn't like her at first, but I liked I when she was leaving her family, I felt sad for her and her family.
Yeah.
Like I'll throw myself out here. I had to wipe away a tear. I felt emotional for
That's
her
okay.
leaving.
Chris, it's okay to shed a tear. It's okay. I know we couldn't even talk about that middle episode of Wrexham last time around. God forbid anybody talk about their history or past and why men can't talk to each other. You're the embodiment of that. Men can't talk to each other about feelings. It's okay. You shed a tear. But yeah, ultimately I agree with you. And then let's see, Elendil and the Numenorian stuff I thought was done really, really well too. So I think, yeah, this show took big swings and some it hit and some are home runs and some, was a swing and a miss. But it's like, I appreciate that when a show takes big swings like that.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's fun to watch. And I was along for the ride and I can't, and like we said earlier, like I can't wait for season 2, but it may be a while.
Will we see the fall of Numenor in season 2? Let's talk about that. What do we think is going to happen in season 2 now? Will we see the fall of Numenor in season 2?
I don't want to. Maybe because it's interesting. I feel like that's almost like a middle of the road, like the middle beat of a story. Like if they're planning this as a 5 season arc, then season 3 is going to be like the middle of that story, almost like The Empire Strikes Back in a trilogy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that makes more sense story wise to have something that drastic and devastating happen in a season 3 in the middle of a story. But it's possible. As far as season 2. It's interesting because season 2 historically on any show it can be the difference between a 2 season show and a 7 season show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like how well your sophomore season comes back and grabs people again, it really kind of determines the longevity of the show going forward. So I can't even speculate. I don't know. I
I'm
hope
not
we get
see-
an answer
I'm
of
not
it.
sure exactly where they're, I mean, we're going to see more development in Mordor.
Yeah.
Is it possible that the finale of season 2 will be the Numenorians storming uh Mordor? And it's that battle between Sauron and the Numenorians where he actually is taken back to Numenor, and he's the one that whispers in the ear of the king in Numenor, and which leads them to sailing. Oh, is that east to towards Valinor?
Oh, see, I don't know if they knew that they captured Sauron. I would assume that Sauron just took a different form because that's one of Sauron's powers is
No,
that
he
he can just take a
actually
different form.
he actually he wanted to buy. If I remember correctly, and if anyone's watching, drop a comment below. He
Yeah.
actually surrendered and he was taken captive
Oh, is
because
that
he
where
knew
that
he
trope
was
started?
beat. What was that?
Like Loki, is that where that trope started? Just like Loki and the Joker, and I'm gonna get captured and do my damage internally.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he started whispering. He went from captive to like hand of the king, I guess we can say, and started whispering in their ear, and basically had convinced them to sail east towards Numenor, not Norman, towards the Valar, and that's when the Earth opened up, swallowed the ships, and the waves basically destroy Numenor. And actually, Sauron is still on Numenor, so he dies, but his soul is actually able to get back to Middle Earth. So
Okay.
all that takes place. So I wonder if that would be the season finale of season 2, leading, you know what I mean, the big battle.
Right.
Maybe the big battle, and then the fall would be where how they open season 3.
Possibly. I don't know. With a 5 season, it's funny that we can't speculate on the stuff, and I don't know in the depth of me like the historian aspects of the Silmarillion and the War of the Ring well enough to know how they're going to lay this out over 5 seasons. But either way, I mean, you and I will be back whenever it does come back.
Whenever it returns, we'll be talking about
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys, what's your opinions on it? Drop the comments below. If you're watching live, drop them live. I mean, it doesn't matter to us. If we're talking about another show, we'll stop for a second, address your comment. And but I mean, we've been talking a lot about a couple of these shows. It's right about time we turn our attention to some House of the Dragon.
Your graciousness moves me deeply, Princess. We're both mothers. And we love our children. We have more in common than we sometimes allow.
Was that the last olive branch we're gonna see between these two?
Probably. Yeah. Later in the episode, Rhaenyra says that she's going to take her kids home, but then fly back on Dragon's back. But I think she will do that, but I don't think in a way that they're expecting right now. I think when she flies back, it's going to be war, baby.
I don't think that quickly. I think it's going to be the funeral of Viserys, because we see him pass, and during that last minute of his life, he thinks he's delusional. He thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra,
Right.
and he says some things about the Song of Ice and Fire, but he says it to Alicent, who doesn't truly understand what he's saying because it's just right now babble, and she's going to go ahead and take it as in her son should be king.
Yeah, he specifically says Aegon needs to take the throne, but he was talking about Aegon Rhaenyra's new kid, not. And that's if you're in a family, don't name your children the same. Causes confusion.
Yeah, definitely to the old folks.
Yeah, exactly. That was something that wasn't in the book apparently. Was this mix up? This basically what it does, it gives Alicent a reason to really forge forward into taking, because before it was just like, well, Otto and the High Towers, they just wanted power and that's it. But now it's like they wanted power initially too, but now that she thinks that she's really kind of granting Viserys's final wish on his deathbed, to continue this line. It can be only her, he says. So she really takes that to heart. Like, oh, I mean, they were interested in power before, but now I think over time she eventually learned to love the king and her role and being there for him. Um, and I don't. Do you think he was being poisoned with milk of the poppy, or like, do you think they were helping his sickness or keeping him alive, or what?
I don't think they were helping him. I think they were numbing him to the point where he wouldn't be able to make any decisions on his own.
Yeah.
So that's when Otto was sitting basically on the Iron Throne making decisions for him.
Right.
And then when Rhaenyra and Daemon walk in, like, oh no, we see through your BS. We know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And when they removed that from him, when he walked into the throne room, when they all looked, I'm like, oh hell. Like,
Right.
what are you doing here? Like my plan is not going to go as we want now, because they know Viserys walked in, he pulled the carpet out from underneath him.
Let's just talk about Viserys this episode and Patty Constantine. I think this was a tour de force, not only with his acting and his portrayal as this character, but like the special effects. Like, dude, it's one thing. We're so used to laser beams and dragons flying through the sky and like these huge things, superhero movies, but like to take both, because this is both practical and visual effects.
Yeah.
Getting Viserys to look this way, when that stuff is done and that perfect melding between the two styles of visual effects comes together. It was done so well. Like he looked, it was horrible to look at.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, there was scenes that like I could have cut for us for a show. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, I don't even I don't I don't want to see it again because it's hard to watch.
Just a simple visual effect of him without his shirt on. That scene where he was talking to Otto and they were like, peeling the crap off his back or whatever. And he was sitting there as this frail, looked like a 90-year-old man, just completely skinny and pale and frail and sickly. And it's like, that's not really what Patty Constantine looks like, but you totally buy it. It was like, it reminded me of like, when Steve Rogers was pre Captain America Steve Rogers, where it's just in this different body. And you were just like, how did they do that? Like, this is insane. This is incredible. And Patty Constantine's performance, not only this episode, but the entire season as Viserys. I think even George R. R. Martin, after this episode, said that he was half tempted to just go back and kind of rewrite parts of his book because he was so impressed with Patty's portrayal of Viserys. Where in the book, Viserys was just kind of this fat, jolly king that really didn't care and probably shouldn't have been king. But this portrayal of Viserys in this whole series, in this episode in particular, was heartbreaking. Like the
Yeah.
entire time where he's pleading and begging with his family to just drop these arguments and just be a family and continue to, like, he's desperate because he knows, but he's not a fool. Like he's, you know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
understands what's going on around him. He's
He
not
knows
an
what's gonna
idiot.
happen once he dies.
Exactly. And he's
That war
pleading.
that they avoided with naming him king is
Right.
now gonna happen in his passing.
Yeah. And he's begging, and you just know that it's not going to work out the way that he's hoping and trying to will
Well,
it
I
to
love
happen.
like his last supper.
Yeah.
Like he gathered everybody there and he stood up and he was talking and basically telling them his disappointment in the family. Like this was the first
Mhm.
time you see him in his grandeur, like
Yeah.
telling him, "This is what I'm not happy about." Like
Right.
if he would have been stern for a while, it would have been a whole different outcome. But he's
Yeah.
to the point now where he's like, "I don't care what you think. I'm upset at all you guys sitting around this table and not liking each other. I'm
Right.
upset that you guys have grown like so distant from each other."
Mhm.
And then but he likes the future. He likes the kids, how they're going to be betrothed and everything. They all have their own direction.
Yeah.
So he sees the good in it. He's always seen the good in everybody. He always wants to see the good in everybody. And then when he goes ahead and he's like, I want you guys to see me for who I am now.
Takes the mask off.
And he
Yeah.
takes that mask off. Oh my God. That was something. That whole scene. Like I've had issues where I feel like they've had scenes all in one location, and I feel like the payoff wasn't there.
Mhm.
This one here, the payoff from the beginning when he sits down to when he's talking to when Rhaenyra stands up and she toasts the queen, saying, "Thank you for being loving and honorable and everything to my father. We may not get along,
Right.
but you were the best possible wife you could be to my father."
Right.
And how touching that was to Allison. I mean, and then we've seen Allison's response back to her on how much that olive branch. I think if it wasn't for, I'll say it, if it wasn't for Damon, and if it's not for her dad, this friction between the two would not really still be there.
Right.
Those two are the ones that are really getting things wound up, and you see
That and
Damon
the
smile.
kids. And the
Well,
kids too, because
the
they're.
kids fed off of them two.
And you're right, but by this point, their minds are made up, and there's
Yeah.
legit hatred there. I mean, the dinner had calmed down when Aegon decides to make his toast. You know what I mean? And just like flare things back up again. Like the kids are too far gone at this point. They've been raised with this hatred, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That point, that ship has sailed. So
Yeah.
that's where it's going to happen. I would not be shocked if we seen Rhaenyra and Allison and Otto all die.
Hmm.
And it's basically Damon's kind of doing his thing because Damon always finds a way to escape. Damon,
Right.
he's like a snake. He's going to find his way out of a situation. But the kids are going to be where the war is fought. And that's kind of where they're setting it up.
Yeah. One moment I wanted to bring up too was when Viserys made the grand entrance into his, the king's chambers there where the Iron Throne is, and he makes this slow walk without assistance, and he finally gets and he can't get up the steps to the throne, and Damon comes in and steps in. The crown is dropped, but he picks up the crown and
Mhm.
places it back on Viserys' head out of just respect, out of love. It was just such a nice, quiet moment that this show does so well. It does the big moments well, and it throws in those really quiet, soft moments really
Yeah.
well too.
Well, it shows the relationship that Damon and him have always had. They've
Yeah,
been at odds with each other, but there's
right.
always that underlined love, brotherly love that they both have for each other, no matter the situation.
Yeah, even in episode 2 when Corlys came to Daemon complaining about Viserys and he, started to called him names and stuff, and Daemon ended that real quick. He was like, "I can talk about my brother a certain way, no one else can."
No one else can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like finally there was repercussions to someone like back talking the king. When Viserys stood up, he's like, "I'm gonna have your tongue for that." Next thing you know, dude's HUD's cut in half. He said he
Dude.
can keep his tongue.
Oh my god, that scene was so shocking. And Game of Thrones, the whole entire series had a bunch of shocking moments. This was right up there with anything we saw in the original series. This was like that sword strike and just the head being cut in half with the tongue. That was so
Well, Damon,
gross.
and not Damon, but what was his name? I can't think of his name off the top of
Damon?
my head. Not Damon. The guy that got his head sliced.
Damon.
Damon. Okay. Well, he went as far as he called the kids bastards, and then I think he called Rhaenyra a whore.
Oh, he did.
And that's when Damon was like, "Yep, nope, whoop.
Yeah, no more.
No, I've heard enough."
Well, he could see. He even egged it on. He was like, when Vayman was starting to raise his voice and voice his complaints and started that, Damon was looking at him like, "Yeah, keep going, keep going. We'll see where this
I want a
ends up."
reason to take you down.
Yeah. That whole scene was incredible, dude. Yeah.
But
This was really great and a great week at TV. I mean, we already talked about it. The heist in the Eye with Andor, the finales of Game of Thrones, finales of Welcome to Wrexham. This episode too. Whoo-wee. A lot of good stuff to talk about this week.
yeah, no, it did not disappoint. I'm so I'm happy. I enjoy these shows. I want to
Yeah.
continue these shows, and we're losing two at the
Yeah.
exact same time, which is disappointing. But I guess we'll have to move on, right?
Yeah, and we are moving on. Next week, we're gonna start watching a brand new show that's premiering on Amazon Prime. The show is called, I'm hoping you have it in front of you because I haven't memorized it just yet. What's the name of the show that we're
Oh, The
gonna be
Peripheral.
The Peripheral, thank you. We're gonna be covering that next week here on the After Show. That's premiering this upcoming Friday, I believe, on Amazon Prime.
If to give you guys an idea on what it's about, I mean, if you're a big Ready Player One person fan, like I got the book in front of me. It's signed by Will Wheaton, who did the audio version.
Mhm.
It gave me big Ready Player One feelings. So it's kind of like there's a VR setup on it, and then they're testing a new one. It's basically kind of like an MRI thing you put on your head, and you close your eyes, and you're in that world. So
Yeah.
it's like you're dreaming a real dream, and you're whatever the situation is. So it seems very trippy. I think it looks good. Yeah, visuals look good. Storyline TBD. We'll find out together.
We'll see. Yeah, that's half of the fun of going into a show fresh without, not like an established franchise to jump into.
And it's
Like you and
season
I.
one. So you know
Yeah,
what? You guys check out season one and get on the ground floor with us, and we'll see exactly what we think, and we'll kind of go from there. But guys, thanks so much for joining us. This is a longer show than we usually do, just because we had the wrap up of a couple of our shows. So
right.
we wanted to kind of give our overall thoughts on those. Let us know what you think. Drop all your comments. What was your overall impression of the Lord of the Rings of Power? What was your thoughts on Welcome to Wrexham? Are you following Wrexham now, like we are? Like I've got myself a jersey. I'm ready to go ahead and watch another game when I can. So apparently it's going to be Tuesday night or Tuesday morning,
Right.
whenever it's on. But thank you so much for joining us. And I guess till we go ahead and see you next time. We'll see you
After the show.